Hey folks, how's it going? I just recently saw The Art of Killing It, an immersive theater comedy, and I wanted to give you my thoughts in a quick review. We are listening to Old Tax Market Fantasy Music for Inspiration from the YouTube channel Blue Turtle. Let me share my screen here, and I'm actually going to go to their Instagram here and just play some of their videos in the background as I talk a little bit about this experience. So, The Art of Killing It. Yeah, so basically you come in there and you are given a role as soon as you arrive. They have some drinks at a small bar that are themed to the party. All the guests are meeting in this sort of large meeting room, at which point there is a sort of a theatrical event that occurs. Then from there, sorry, let me turn this music off, actually. It's making me go crazy. Then, there's some audience participation, jokes, gags, etc. Then the audience is asked to go and search a series of maybe 5 or so rooms in the set that they've created. You proceed with that search. You resume this sort of... you sort of collect all of the evidence together with this investigator. And then the rest of the event is basically the investigator using the evidence you've collected to sort of recount what had transpired in the first half of the night. So there's sort of a first act where the events happen, a second act where you're doing some sleuthing, you're researching what's going on, and a third act, if you will, where the investigator is using the sleuthing that you and your other compatriots, the other theater goers, have collected in order to sort of piece together this grand mystery. Overall, the tone of the experience, I'd say, is it's very lighthearted. It's slapstick at times. The jokes, the humor, it's a little bit, how would you say, like, maybe a little, not garish is the word, but like it's a little, I forget the name of the word, but it's hold on, let me figure out what the damn word is. All right, I just looked it up. So it's considered, I guess, lowbrow humor or maybe crass humor with some sort of topical humor there as well to sort of comment on the modern state of things with social media and all that stuff. And basically and I would say that that's great. Honestly, it's pretty funny experience. I had brought my girlfriend as sort of like a little present to her, and she really enjoyed it. She was laughing a lot. The jokes didn't really land with me, but it's clear the audience was having a great time. I think it was... as far as the humor goes, I think you're probably going to laugh at the show. There was something in it for everyone. It's a little bit silly. It's a little bit crazy. And fairly lighthearted, which I think is definitely a change of pace as far as Future Proof is concerned. Future Proof is the, I guess, production company behind this thing, or at least it's the host of this sort of space. Future Proof also has the Doors of Divergence, which is sort of a escape room meets interactive theater. I had been to... one of their performances, Heresy, prior to going to this event. So, hey, there's a lot of cool stuff happening at Future Proof. They're definitely the one of the many, I guess, indie voices with respect to sort of interactive theater. I said many, but to be honest, I can't think of a lot. There's not a lot of people who are doing what they're doing at the scale that they're doing it, even though it may be indie. They're certainly making a mark, and it's awesome to see what they come up with next. I'm excited about this creative team and the exciting, voices that they're bringing to the stage. So overall, it's a really cool play. I would say, sure, there's definitely areas where it could be improved. It definitely has an indie feel. It definitely feels like high production, but it feels like at times it was kind of put on by your friends and you're just kind of there along for the ride versus maybe, I feel like a lot of immersive theater is like very highbrow and very sort of stuffy. And so this is a nice breath of fresh air with respect to some of the other voices in the scene. With all that being said, I think there's probably not a lot in this immersive experience for people who want to take on a character role. There's opportunities to interface directly with a lot of the actors. And so I think if you want to put on a bit of a character, then there's an opportunity to do that. But I would say it would have been really cool if the creative team could have contacted you beforehand and said, hey, here's the character you're playing. Here's a rough guideline for how to dress. And, here's a background about who the person you are is. So, for example, who the person you are is. So, for example, maybe that could be for example, I think they had told us at the front entrance that me and my date were Laser and Taser, a social media couple. And so I appreciated that. I thought that was really cool. But I think they could have dived a little bit more into that. What would it look like if perhaps they had just a rough sketch of an Instagram online for this Laser and Taser couple, and they could say, hey, here's your Insta handle. Here's some of the posts and stuff that you guys are into, and here's some suggestions for how you might dress when you attend the event. I feel like some theater goers are going to get really into that. The LARPing community, those guys are wild. They go hard. But other people are just going to kind of take it as a suggestion and not really get too invested. So I think giving more of the theater goers or players, you might say, affordances to kind of dive into those characters would be welcome. Additionally, let's talk about the sleuthing aspect. I would say the sleuthing aspect, it wasn't as awesome, I think, as some as the other ones. For this one, it was basically just sort of find the hidden objects that were within an escape room, which is maybe a nice change of pace for other folks. I know there's a lot of escape rooms out there where they say, it's like the common mantra with escape rooms is they bring you to the room and they say, hey, man, don't be unscrewing our outlets. Don't be messing with any of our stuff. I think this one was a little bit more chaotic. They were like, yeah, grab all the drawers, take them off the hinges, look look for what could have been hidden here and there, and I think that was welcome. I think it was a really cool time, but I will say that it felt a little bit hard to sort of get a good direction with respect to where that was going. With my particular experience, there was like maybe 5 or so rooms that were within the set, and I had to go to a room called the Atrium, and there was some props there that I could have interacted with. So, for example, there was a flower that had some relevance to the plot, but you wouldn't have known that unless you had a plot-relevant detail prior to that. So it seemed like within that room, it seemed like almost the contents of that room were sort of a second step in a deduction process, and so maybe going there as my first room, I didn't really have much to do. With that being said, I really enjoyed eavesdropping on the various conversations from the actors, and really the actors are the life of this whole event. They are breathing a lot of character into it, which I absolutely appreciated. There's a lot of wild and exciting people like this character, Mr. Sexy Santa, and his helper. I don't know what they're doing in this video. There's a lot of wildness. It's raunchy. It's wild. It's a little bit silly. But I all right, I gotta turn this video off. It's a little too ridiculous. But there's a lot to love here. There's definitely a lot of character, and it's got that indie vibe which it brings to the stage for sure. The drinks, I really loved the drinks. There was a number of themed drinks for the event. I think we bought 2, and we enjoyed them very much. And there was also this cool thing that I hadn't seen prior, but a little bit of a DLC, a microtransaction, if you will. You can give a tip to the bartender to receive a tip towards solving the case. I thought that was a really fun way to integrate that, and I think it's a cool idea. So was there anything else I wanted to touch upon? I would say that the first act was probably, I think that the third act was probably the least strong, where you're just sort of sitting in front of the lead investigator, and she's sort of explaining to you everything that had transpired that night. I feel like that didn't resonate with me as much. I definitely wasn't somebody like super involved in the sleuthing. I kind of took a back seat and tried to observe during the night. But I thought that only having, I think it was maybe 1 or 2 moments to try and find evidence, it would have been nicer if perhaps during the first moment you could go look for evidence, and then we reconvene, and then we talk about what we found. We discovered some leads, and then during that process, maybe the stagehands could kind of go behind the scenes and add new stuff to the sets, move things around, various stuff like that, so that when we re-enter the scene, we now have some sort of leads in mind. We know what we want to be investigating a bit further, and then we can kind of look for stuff along those lines. I think we did 2 searches during this period of the play, but I'm not quite sure. It just felt like kind of we did this search, and then the whole play was pretty much over. You're just there to sit and sort of see everything resolve itself. So that's all I think I have to say about that. For people who are excited about agency in an interactive theater format, I'd say, the extent of your agency is basically finding stuff for the play to get resolved. And there's a few sort of interactions where they might ask the crowd something and the crowd might be able to, respond to that or something like that. There certainly isn't anything in this experience that you might say is a puzzle or something you necessarily need to decipher or derive. It's a little bit more of finding the puzzle pieces and having them sort of put together before your very eyes. There is a moment during the play where there's a sort of whodunit moment, and they asked everybody in the experience to sort of give their vote on who they think is the perpetrator based on the evidence presented so far, and I think that was a really great idea. I think that was very well done, and sort of everybody takes a different side on the argument, and we get to see who was right and who was wrong. Unfortunately, I did guess incorrectly, but I wasn't really following the plot very well, and nonetheless, it was a good time. So, other notes was the venue for the experience, Future Proof, is sort of in the middle of nowhere, Brooklyn, and my date said that she felt very unsafe in the surrounding neighborhood. So that's something to keep in mind. You might want to take a cab here. When we did exit the vicinity, there was a cop car in front with the lights on, some beer bottles sort of smashed and strewn across the sidewalk, lots of garbage on the streets. This is not a nice place, and walking around there around 10 p.m. I could definitely understand why she might have felt a little uncomfortable. So hey, maybe take a cab there. It's definitely indie. It's definitely we're looking at something that it's definitely not Broadway. I'll tell you that. So definitely keep that in mind. She had noted that, so I wanted to include that note as well. Overall, I'm going to say this experience is really awesome. I would recommend it if you're sort of the kind of person who likes theater and wants to dip your toes into what immersive theater could be. If you're somebody who really places agency in front of everything else when it comes to these sort of interactive experiences, maybe theater isn't your thing as much as, let's say, an escape room where you feel like you're, having a direct role in solving problems, then this experience might be not exactly aligned with your preferences. So with that being said, I think it's probably going to be 4 out of 5 stars for me. A really good experience and a great outing for this team, which I think is maybe new in the space. I know Future Proof is new in the space. Let's see. I think the founder is this guy, Jordan Waters. I'm not familiar with the kind of work he's done before. Yeah, I don't know, but it's a solid event, and I commend the team for it. Everybody knocked it out of the park, and kudos to not only the acting team, but everybody who put work into setting up the set, because it really does add a lot of personality to the whole experience. They did a fantastic job in turning what is essentially a warehouse into the McKinney Manor, I believe is what it's called, the setting of the plot. Lots of fun here. It's a great experience. Check it out, and if you've had the opportunity to do so, let me know what you thought in the comments section. Bye.